The meeting of the Regional Transportation Commission, Board of Directors, Ms. Quigley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Yep. It is on. Your first item is to conduct your first citizens participation period.
This is the first time set aside for public comment. Those wishing to speak to the board on a posted agenda item, now is your opportunity. Okay, those wishing to speak on 53, that's a non-consent, so we'll hear that. You're welcome to speak now or when the item is heard. So those that have listed 53, your option. I take it that we'll wait for 53. Very good. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board? Seeing and hearing no one, will close this portion of public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Your next item is to approve the agenda. Your agenda is in order and ready for your approval.
It's a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries.
And next item is your CEO report. Our first, we'd like to recognize two superstars in our agency. Our first superstar is from our finance department. When this individual heard an issue reported through the radio about a software failure causing all bus fare boxes to stop working, she immediately jumped into action to help rectify the issue. Her rapid response to the situation helped mitigate both loss of service to our customers and revenue to the agency. This individual has also been instrumental in streamlining the customer comment resolution process, reducing the amount of time we resolve issues from weeks to just a few days. This nominee continually demonstrates amazing customer service and is always aware of how customers will be impacted and takes steps to ensure the agency is providing the highest level of care, especially to our most vulnerable customers. So please help me recognize Melissa Mascari.
I take it, Melissa, Melissa, by your reaction, were you brought here under false pretenses? This way?
All right, board, stay up there because we have another superstar of the quarter. He's from our IT department. This individual assisted the finance department with a vital project of changing software platforms for the RTC's point-of-sale system. He developed a new report that not only saves the agency time when importing data, but also allows finance staff members to be more detailed when analyzing information and make more informed decisions. This individual was instrumental in helping with the seamless transition and building a reporting method that is sophisticated and easy to use for our finance staff. So please join me in recognizing Tyler Horn. Tyler, come on down. I think Tyler was also caught off unawares. Yes, you do, Tyler.
They're doing one pass a day, and you didn't get it.
Is it on? Is it on? I don't know what to say. Super surprised, but I want to say thanks to my team, and I've worked with both finance and IT now, and streets and highways. Yep. So thank you to everybody I've worked with.
Thank you.
That was pretty good.
All right, we have two more. Next, we'd like to recognize an outstanding operator from our contractor, MV Transportation, Fred Brooks. Fred, are you with us? Come on down. Mr. Brooks prides himself on his excellent customer service and has received numerous compliments from passengers on his outstanding performance. One day, while driving on Route 101 Rainbow, he noticed an elderly woman struggling to cross the street to catch his bus. He saw that the traffic light was about to change and was afraid that she might injure herself. Mr. Brooks secured his vehicle before deboarding to assist her across the street and help her safely board the bus. So thank you, Mr. Brooks, for putting your passengers' safety first. Yay.
I'll say this is amazing. Really, I set a goal, basically challenge myself daily to, just to be the best me I could be, for my family, for all people, really. I just want to say thank you to the MV team. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. And I appreciate everybody. Thank you very much. God bless.
Right. And we have one more. We have an operator recognition from our contractor, Keolis. Miss Katina Manuel. Katina, are you with us? Yay. Ms. Manuel helped prevent what could have been a very serious situation. She was driving Route 202, which is Flamingo, when she noticed a young boy at a transit stop by himself. Since he only spoke Spanish, she elicited the help of passengers and discovered that his parents were out of town and he was lost. Ms. Manuel brought the 6-year-old boy onto the bus, alerted police, and assisted in getting the child safely back to the family. So thank you, Ms. Manuel, for your dedication and for helping a child in need. That's a big deal.
I just want to say thank you. I was just doing my job, honestly. So really, thank you guys, and thank you, Keolis, for recognizing me.
We want to report on our Clean Energy Summit. A few weeks ago, the RTC organized a Clean Energy and Transportation Summit to learn how we can better plan a region for a more sustainable future in Nevada. We were excited to be able to convene and coordinate the lineup of knowledgeable speakers and industry experts. We hosted a technology expo that showcased 8 vendors, 7 clean energy vehicles, and an electric bus that was in town for our pilot demonstration program. We were pleased to see the overwhelming amount of interest from the community. We had to cap RSVPs when we reached 350, and I have to tell you, when we were planning it, we were only expecting about 200. So what a pleasure to learn that our community is really excited to have these conversations and be engaged. This supports our notion that now is the time to discuss how our region can collaborate to build a clean energy economy for Nevada's future. So here is a short video that highlights the summit.
We are now leading the way in deploying technology and advancing autonomous vehicles in the state of Nevada, many of which will be all electric in the future. And a lot more is happening behind the scenes as it relates to autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles. You have all of our support as we move forward as a community to reduce our carbon emissions in transportation sector. And this is statewide. It's not just in Southern Nevada. It's something that we realize is a priority for all of us, for future generations.
People recognize that clean energy is here. It's part of our economic future. It's also part of our environmental health and safety. People know that climate change is a threat. It's happening. We can't ignore it anymore. And that means more conversations about clean energy and clean transportation.
If we can get electric vehicles, buses, the cars that you drive, if we can make those electrified, then we can address the climate change that is happening in this country. And one just touch on climate change. I don't have to tell all of you, Nevada, we see it happening, right? From the wildfires, the drought, it is real, it is happening, but we can be on the forefront of reducing that carbon footprint.
There was a UNLV professor that I heard one time. She said, nature is always the last at bat and has the home field advantage. And I think that gives us pause to think about the choices we make from a transportation perspective, sustainability. As far as transportation goes, we need to have choices, and those choices have to be available, they have to be accessible and affordable for everyone.
Because we've made so much progress cleaning up the power sector with the advent of renewables at the utility scale and both distributed, we are seeing now that the shift needs to be on the transportation sector. Transportation is now the largest emitter of greenhouse gases in Nevada, and it's also the area of greatest economic opportunity. We're seeing the electrification of transportation happen rapidly right before our eyes. And so it's important that all of us find these solutions and work together to really stay ahead of the curve.
And one that people ask that if we would please consider to do annually. So very exciting. And inevitably moving forward, I think the RTC will be a leader in the conversation about clean energy and transportation. Which brings me to something that I'd like to share with you, speaking of the future. Yesterday, I submitted my letter of resignation to our board chair, Chairman Larry Brown. I've been with the RTC for over 14 years. I was with the airport for 15 years prior to that. I've been a part of some really amazing growth here in Southern Nevada. In particular, I'm really, really proud of the work that we have done at the RTC. We have collectively, all of us working together, have really become nationally known at this point for a lot of different things, for our advancements in transit, for our streets and highways program, for our commitment to advancing technology in transit and transportation. It's really hard to say goodbye, but I think that it is time. Confidentially, I suppose not so confidentially, I am in conversations with another project that I believe very, very much in, and I believe will be good for Southern Nevada. And that's the only reason that I would ever consider leaving. I really want to thank this board. It's because of you and the fact that you're just such a solid board that you never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get when it comes to a board made up of elected officials. But the RTC has thrived having this board that believed in us. You gave us guidance, you gave us vision, you shared with us what your constituents wanted, but you also allowed us, you gave us the deference and the ability to lead the organization. And it's because of that we were able to leverage your passion, our passion, the team's optimism and energy into really, I think, doing some great things in here in Southern Nevada. So I leave on a very proud note. I will share with you, and I've talked with each of you, that we've been discussing succession planning for a long time now at the RTC. And I speak confidently on behalf of the executive team and I think the entire staff when I say that internally we have somebody who will be able to be the successor in this CEO role, and the agency will not miss a beat, and that is the lady to my right, MJ Maynard. So certainly it is the board's decision, and we respect that entirely, but I did want to go on record to let you know that I do believe internally that we have the talent to continue to lead the organization forward. And MJ, having been over transit and having been over our sustainability issues, will be the right person, I believe, to take you to a whole nother level at both a local level and a national level in terms of those policies and initiatives. So I close with that.
Comments from the board? Mayor?
All the time been here. First of all, words fail to express the gratitude for your long and superior service to the people of Southern Nevada and actually around the country. You've been innovative, you've been so gracious, so fastidious in everything that you've done. It's been an honor for me and my predecessor from the city to serve with you, knowing your work at the airport prior to your service here. So you are one outstanding woman and talent and intellect and caretaker, and we wish you, I could go on and be here, but it's only really to tell you we are so grateful to you. We wish you everything wonderful, and if you have a new opportunity that excites you, that's what life's about. And so I'm sure you will do in that position exactly what you've done here. You're a visionary, you're inspirational, and I know I can speak for all of us and those of us who are out with the Metro Chamber in DC or elsewhere. We appreciate you and we thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
And then beyond that, if I may go one more step, I know you have this organized in your mind, you never leave anything unturned, but the wonder of having a transition thought in mind, having shared that and having been a mentor to so many people here, I certainly, from what you have shared, which you have not mentioned the lady's name, but you just said the lady to your right, I certainly know her, having worked with her, and think she did not say a word. She did not say she accepted your recommendation. So, but assuming she would,
it's a big assumption.
I think that's so appropriate and such a kind gesture on your part, but I know you've trained her and your staff so well because they've watched you all the way. So at the right time, I will follow your lead, and I'd love to push that.
Thank you. Councilman?
Well, I'm probably I'm one of the newest members, and I've been on a number of boards over my career. I have never been on a board that's been as professionally run or associated with an organization that's as professional and well run. I'm just amazed every time I come in here and participate. Well, I will miss you. I wish you well.
Thank you, Councilman. But those words mean a lot because that's what we strive for. We strive to, and I tell you, the entire team, that's our goal, is to make sure that we are professional and that we are always addressing your needs and the needs of your constituents. That is our number one priority. So those words mean a lot. Thank you very much.
If I may add one last thing, and that is that I would absolutely support the mayor's suggestion about our succession, and however the chairman chooses to deal with that.
Thank you. Mayor?
Yes, I would just like to also say I believe that Councilman Galt and I are tied for the newest members here on this board, but I've lived here in Southern Nevada for a long time, and looking at the transportation changes that have occurred here in Southern Nevada, it's been an amazing job. So I appreciate all the work that you and your staff have done here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. The first thing I want to say, actually, I want to congratulate your outreach team, your outreach and public information team. They're out in the community everywhere. This weekend, of course, we celebrate some really big things. We have Nellis Appreciation out in North Las Vegas. I hope everyone is out there. There are numerous Hispanic Heritage Month events all over town. You have to go out there for a blast. And I can assure you there's going to be someone from RTC like Ms. Karen Castro who's out there getting the message, the RTC name, the message out to all aspects of our community. They're doing a fantastic job. They're an outstanding team. But the reason why they're so good is because they've had really great leadership at the top. And the fact that the RTC is nationally recognized, it's going to be a fitting legacy to you, to your leadership. I'm going to personally miss you very much. I jumped at the chance when it suggested me to be part of the RTC. I do believe very much in the RTC's mission, being someone who's actually grew up relying to some extent, my family relying on public transportation, but knowing that you are part of it. Your generosity, your agency's generosity to North Las Vegas cannot be understated. There was a time not that long ago that, of course, the city of North Las Vegas was in a lot of peril, and services were being cut back left to right. One little, just tiny gesture, maybe tiny for you, but it was a big deal for my city, is when several paratransit vehicles were donated to my Parks and Recreation Department to allow my seniors to be able to go out on excursions. That made a big difference, a big impact in their lives. And again, that's a tribute, just one little tiny thing that the RTC can lay its hat on. You mean the whole world to a lot of people. Again, I think you have a dynamic team. You have a good, amongst you have lots of leaders, and I am very confident that the person that you mentioned, right, who we're taking very careful aim here not to mention, will again, as you say, not miss a beat.
Yeah.
And I'm going to enjoy having you as our CEO until the very end.
Okay. And
So
speaking
thank you very
of-
much.
It would, just so you know, you'll get an opportunity to test drive the lady to my right at the October board meeting because I'll be on some leave. And my last board meeting will be with you on November 14th. So I'll officially pass it on to whoever. I don't want to cry yet, okay? Okay, let's just go on. Next agenda item.
Now, before, we do need to kind of put this in perspective here. So, council, work with me on this. In October, I direct staff to, under consent, post an agenda item accepting Ms. Quigley's resignation. And the non-consent in October, before the board will be an item to discuss the selection process in replacing Ms. Quigley. That could be a variety of options, including some that have been mentioned today.
Correct.
But again, we want to publicly post that. And then with Tina announcing the November meeting, we could, at that time, continue addressing it. So, but for October, accept the resignation and discuss the selection process.
That's correct.
All right. Deep breath. Next on the agenda is item number 4, which is to receive the Nevada Department of Transportation Director's Report from Director Swallow.
All right, thank you for having me here. As I don't think I've done this yet with in my presentations, but I am going to start talking about our safety on our network as a regular part of my director's report, because transportation safety is the thing that we must focus on most in terms of getting people where they want to go, but making sure they all get there and they all get there in one piece. So this is the state fatalities report. Of that 172 fatalities, you'll note that it's down significantly from 2018, which is fantastic. It's still 172 too many. Of those, 114 lost their lives in Clark County last year, and that is down by 29%. So again, good, and it's progress, but it's still too many. 16 of those were unrestrained, which represents a 57% decrease in Clark County from the previous year. And I'm hoping that's a sign that more people are buckling up and making sure that they're getting themselves and their passengers to where they want to go safely. And then the only other piece that I wanted to focus on this is that pedestrian fatalities on a statewide basis are down by 4%. In Clark County, they're actually down by 14%, which is a great sign. And again, we all share a role, whether we're driving, walking, biking, we all share a role in the safety of our transportation system. And I'm going to start focusing on this so everybody understands how important it is that we manage our system in a safe manner. The next several slides, I'm going to be focusing on our annual work program, our historical expenditures, and our planned program moving forward. You can see on here, we've summarized the state gas and diesel, state and federal taxes, the division thereof. I will note that that is not all of our revenue. We get revenue from other sources as well. Unfortunately, as I've learned, that isn't necessarily categorized by county. So I'm going to be working with our partners. We, as NDOT, we don't actually collect the revenue. The revenue gets collected by another agency. I'm going to be working with our partners to further peel that onion back and get the full picture of how the revenue breaks out across the state between Clark, Washoe, and the other counties. But at least this is an initial picture from just the fuel taxes, because that is a significant portion of the revenue. You can see on the two charts on the right, the historical spending as a statewide overall. It fluctuates up and down and has for the last 10 years. And the percentages, how that breaks down between Washoe, Clark, and the other counties across the state. Again, there's a significant fluctuation along those lines as we move forward because there are limited resources, and sometimes we have giant projects like Project Neon down here, and sometimes we have bigger projects up north, and so we have to balance how we spend that revenue across, but hopefully trying to make sure that we're spending the money where the greatest needs are across the state. So moving forward, at our August board meeting, we approved the annual work program for 2020. It is part of the STIP, but we only approved the annual, just the one-year program. In conjunction with that, we also notice on the following 3 years, and I'll talk about all 4 of those years briefly here. Of interest in the 2020 projects for Clark County, we have the US 95 Phase 3DE. That's the final phase of Centennial. We'll be going in this current fiscal year that we're in. We'll be doing the final phase of that. We're going to start the right-of-way acquisition for I-15 in Tropicana, starting and participating with Henderson on their interchange and the NEPA process for that project. We're going to be working on some mill and surface on Nellis, on I-15 southbound near State Line, and a couple of other I-15 surface preservation projects. There's of course a lot more in there, but I wanted to highlight some of the bigger picture projects. In 2021, you'll see actually, and I will address it, you'll see in 2021 we have a significant increase in expenditures up north. That is a project that was scheduled to go this year and has actually been delayed due to some procurement challenges. That adjusts the overall pie, but overall, over the long term, the goal is to make sure that we're spending as appropriate north and south. Some of the projects of note in 2021, again, are continuation of I-15 Tropicana Bridge. There will actually be FRI funds in that, and I have a whole slide on FRI. The I-515 downtown viaduct, we have an interim project on that to do some structural rehabilitation at a southbound lane, so that project will be obligated next year. And then a significant amount of that statewide funding is bond repayments, continuing with that. And then in 2022 and 2023, what I want to focus on this is you can see that the pie in Southern Nevada starts to grow substantially when we get to 2023, but the colors change slightly. That light blue color is projects on our program that have not yet been incorporated into the TIP. They're projects that we're committing to delivering, but understand that they still have to go through the process with the RTC, and as they go through the process, they may change, they may adjust if we need to, but there are projects that we believe we can deliver in those out years, provided that the MPO is interested in doing so. Those a couple of the projects in that lighter blue category include reconstruction and widening of the Sloan interchange, beginning construction of the Bermuda interchange on I-15, an I-15 northbound climbing lane north of the valley, and the first phase of the Henderson interchange. So we're looking at trying to advance some of the projects that we've been talking about here. I understand they've been talking about since before I was here, so we're looking at advancing some of those in the out years, but recognizing that that lighter blue, we're still working through the process and making sure that they can be delivered, but wanted to identify those. I understand that there were some questions about the funding split as we got further into the out years, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's a problem. We need to figure out what we can bring and make sure that we are delivering the projects needed in the southern portion of the state. I frequently get asked about FRI and what the program is for FRI funds. To date, the NDOT has received $14.5 million of FRI funding. In 2019, we committed $9 million of that to the I-11 Tier 1 NEPA study. So that is already committed and in progress. And in 2020, we're committing another $60 million of that to the Centennial Project that I mentioned, the final phase of the Centennial Project, and to I-15 in the right-of-way. You'll note on the slide that we are planning on bonding against that to help deliver those projects faster. And then just to focus and highlight sort of on how this whole process works, several years ago, actually it was finalized last year, was our One Nevada plan. I believe I mentioned it at the first board meeting I was at about how committed I am to actually making this plan work for us, work for the state as a whole, in delivering the projects that we need across the state on a needs-based basis. So truly data-driven, outcomes-based process. We, as you can see, we identified as a statewide community 6 goals: the enhance safety, preserve infrastructure, optimize mobility, transform economies, foster sustainability, and connect communities. Well, some of those are very easy for us to measure and have data and metrics around. Some of those are harder to measure and have metrics around. So we have a consultant on board that's going to start working with us on figuring out not just the data that we need, but how those weigh against each other. What takes priority from safety or mobility? What takes priority on preservation? And how do we manage that across the state? I'm looking forward to working with everyone as we work through that process, so that hopefully in the coming years we'll be able to readily define the project priorities, the needs, and how we're developing our projects as a result. And then lastly, I mentioned it at the last meeting, a star is born. I love that. That's going to be the hashtag for our ribbon cutting on the Star Interchange, Star is born. I invite you all to join us next Wednesday at 11 a.m. when we do the ribbon cutting on the Star Interchange. And with that, I conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Mayor?
Just a quick thank you. I would love to be there. We have city council. So the fact that we all have to be at city council. So just know that we're with you. We're extremely proud of this. And go Judy Garland. Love it. Thank you.
So if we could go back, let's go back to the beginning. The historical revenue expenditures. This has been wonderful because this is, I think, my 23rd year with the RTC, and the relationship with NDOT has been colorful, to say the least. One of the biggest things, and I greatly appreciate these numbers here, but I offer this as a challenge over the next few years and certainly beyond. The difficulty we've had in Southern Nevada over the years has been not only getting to the numbers, but getting descriptions and narrative to go along with those numbers. Because as we all know, in this business, you can play with numbers and make them do anything you want. As far as the South receiving 60% of the revenue, I don't think anybody on this board or anybody in Southern Nevada has ever disagreed with Clark County subsidizing programs throughout the state, especially in our rural areas. And that's not just transportation, that's social services, that's everything. The difficulties we've run into is when it goes beyond subsidizing and then we are losing our, what we'd call our fair share. Based on priorities, I have no problems with that. The interesting thing here is we need to be, we, NDOT, RTC, and our member agencies, the Public Works, we need to be communicating in real time with real numbers on real projects. The things that we've done down here in partnership with NDOT in the last few years, I would acknowledge have been tremendous. The RTC has gone above and beyond to utilize our monies to partner with NDOT for some big projects, I-11 being one of them. We want to see the same commitment from the north. Washoe is flush with money. We want to make sure that Washoe is partnering and spending their dollars in partnership with NDOT and not just using NDOT's 100% funding for certain projects, just so there's equity built in there, that there's a buy-in from the Washoe group, from the Clark County group, from NDOT, that we can, as a group, show these numbers publicly, go to the press and talk about the fairness in the distribution of funding, the fairness in addressing priorities statewide and not just political priorities, true transportation priorities. I love the slide as far as those, that funnel. That's a great basis to make some decisions on. So I would just encourage you and your team to continue the communication. What we don't want to do is be blindsided or be fed information that we have to challenge publicly. We want to be with you step by step in some of the major projects that are coming down here. And again, it's not so much a dollar amount or a percentage amount, it's just a fairness, it's an equity amount. The priorities in Clark County certainly rank high as any other priorities in the state, because the priorities down here let us continue our sustainability, let us continue to drive revenues, which therefore then subsidize a lot of the state. So we can't let other priorities offset the critical needs in Southern Nevada. I would ask you to continue to provide information like this, to communicate with our folks. It's imperative. We have Project Neon, 30 years in the making. I'm sure that's a big percentage of one of those little charts there. But we have other Project Neons. We have the East 95 from Las Vegas out to Henderson. You talk about infrastructure that has been there for at least 30, 40 years, Mayor, yes? And a critical component, Project Neon makes a dent in our system, but unless we do something heading east and everything else, it's a puzzle, you know that. So we have some major multi-$100-million, closing on billion-dollar investments, transportation that have to be made in Southern Nevada over the next few years, and we hope you're right there with us. Thank you. Now we can move on.
Okay. So next on our agenda is our consent agenda items, which are made up of items 5 through 52 and may be taken in one motion.
Motion on the floor for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Which brings us to item number 53, and the lady who shall go unnamed to my right will introduce that item to you.
Thanks, Tina. Wonderful boss that you are. Commissioners, based on your direction at last month's commission meeting, we'll review the previous session. Oops, oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were, my mistake. Okay. ADA Paratransit Services RFP, and at the last, the March 29 board meeting, you approved that we issue that Paratransit RFP. You approved a two-step process. The first step was comprised of technical qualifications, and as you can see in the slide, it included management structure and key personnel, transition and startup plan, operational innovation, staffing and personnel, and operations management plan, employee training, vehicle and equipment maintenance, safety, security, and emergency management. 2 of the 5 firms responding to the Paratransit RFP, and that was First Transit and RATP Dev, did not score high enough to move on to step 2. Keolis, MV, and Transdev successfully qualified to move on to the second step of the process. In the second step, the proposers were evaluated on innovative solutions, their community of partner approach, and interviews, which included situational tabletop exercises, all of which comprised 60% of the technical score, with price proposals at 40%. We had an evaluation panel of 6 RTC staff and 1 external subject matter expert who provided feedback but did not rate. As a reminder, we asked the bidders to submit proposals for the 3 models as shown on the screen here. So Model 1 includes ADA paratransit service, that's our core service, senior transportation services, and something called non-dedicated services, or NDS. That's where we are going to allow the contractor to utilize, we're providing 12 vans in this new RFP. They'll be able to address operational issues that occur on a daily basis, such as addressing peak congestion, a bus breakdown, that sort of thing. The goal really is to continue to ensure the customer experience is a good one. Model 2 is all that I just talked about in Model 1, with the addition of same-day on-demand services. And as you know, we've been running a pilot with Lyft and Tango since February of 2018, with the intention to include that same-day on-demand model in this RFP. Our customers love the service. It provides equity, and it's really been a great service. Model 3 was developed for the proposers to offer an alternate service model containing any proven service enhancements and innovations. Based on the responses that we received, and we read through all of them very diligently, our recommendation is to go with Model 2. It's a model that we're providing right now. We know it works, and we believe it has the ability to, particularly in the future, continue to save the agency funding, as well as to provide great service to the customer. As you can see on the slide, Keolis submitted a price proposal of $400,668,024. MV, their price proposal, and this is a 7-year total, so 5-year base plus 2 option years, of $393,734,698, and Transdev $446,937,529. The technical scores combined, Keel scored 0.85, MV 1.32, and Transdev 1.45. Combining the technical and price scores, the highest weighted total score any proposer could receive in step 2 was 3.00. As you can see, Keel scored 2.02, Transdev scored 2.51, and MV, being the highest ranked proposer, scored 2.52. With that, it is our recommendation to move forward with MV Transportation.
Okay, we have some folks that submitted cards that would like to speak on this item. If you still do, please. I can call out names or come on down. I have, okay.
Thank you. I figured I'd just come on down. Mr. Chairman Brown and members of the board, my name is Tom Egan. I'm the CEO of MV Transportation. And I really appreciate the RTC's recommendation for MV for the paratransit contract. And I really appreciate the opportunity to serve the people of Southern Nevada in a better way, additional way. We already do the fixed route contract from the North Yard. Paratransit services is something that our company was founded upon 44 years ago, and it's the fabric of our company. It's the largest thing that we do, and it's serving the most vulnerable people in communities. And we know we will do an excellent job as we do in the North Yard for the fixed route side. We brought an excellent team to bear. We have a gentleman, Nate Peterson, who is in the audience. He's going to be the GM for the contract. He has 25 years of large paratransit experience and has been very successful in other contracts for MV. Also, I think what's important to note is that we are a people company. And we care deeply about our people and about the passengers that we transport. It's the foundation of our company. It's in our culture. And We will work closely with the union. There's a CBA that's currently in place. We intend to honor that CBA. We intend to honor all the terms of the contract structure that we agreed upon, including the amount of trips that we plan on that are in the contract that we can send off to an alternative provider. We also take an approach as a company to be very union friendly. We're a company that collaborates with unions. We all have the same objective. Our operators and our personnel, we want to care for them as employees, and the union wants to care for them as members. And so our intention is collaboration to make sure that we do that. Our people that deliver the service every day for you have the hardest job in our company. They do an incredible job. They put up with so many things and so many challenges and so many variables that are outside of their control. And we have enormous respect, and we plan on taking care of them and new employees that we'll bring on as a result of this contract. And so with that, I want to thank you for the recommendation, and we plan on doing an excellent job, and we look forward to continuing to serve the RTC in Southern Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board?
Cyrus Ojadi. I just want to comment on the Star interchange, if that's okay.
At the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Nate Peterson, and I'm MV's proposed general manager for the contract that we're talking about today. And just a little bit about myself. This is the only job I've ever had that anybody's ever paid me to do, is in the delivery of paratransit services. I started out as a volunteer driver, and it's hard to believe it's been this many years ago, but I'll just paint the picture. I started out, I remember taking a group of kids from Courage Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a spinal cord rehabilitation center, and I got to go to this movie too. We all collectively went to see the very first Star Wars. That's how long I've been doing this. And I've been with MV Transportation for 19 years now. And in those 19 years, I've worked with MV in both Phoenix and Orange County Transportation. And Orange County is one of the largest standalone operations in the United States for providing paratransit services. And we provide up to 5,000 trips a day there. And lastly, just a little bit why this job's important to me, or not so much important, but why it's a passion for me and the people I work with. In the very few people have the opportunity or are given the opportunity for a job where you can make a difference in people's lives, you know? And that's what we have, all of us collectively. And it's wonderful to see a room full of people here that are interested in paratransit services. Somebody who's been done for it forever. You know, usually you come to rooms and there's a few people, and you know, after our part of the agenda, people leave, and it's great to see a room full of people that are concerned about this. And I'm very much forward to working with the staff here on the board and the passengers. And again, it's not only the passengers that we get to make a positive difference like, but it's their family members and it's our employees. And I'm very excited to be here, and welcome to MV. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Katrina Heine-King. I serve as the Regional Vice President for TransDev, overseeing the TransDev paratransit contract here. I have to tell you, I'm so very disappointed that we're losing this contract. Not in a sour grape sort of way like you might think, but we were doing some pretty terrific things here, and I hope you will agree. For example, in the last 3 years of this contract, TransDev has performed like 4.4 million trips, and averaged 94% on-time performance. So every single month, we have met the goal that you've established for on-time performance, except one in October of 18. So we're pretty proud of that. Doing that, we've traveled 45 million miles in your community to transport passengers with care. You know, and I think we were making some great technological and innovative strides by automating the booking, sending text messages to let loved ones know or passengers know when the vehicles are arriving. And we're about to launch a user app this month. We've had service in Las Vegas, give or take a gap here and there for a year or so, for about 27 years, so don't count us out. We're going to be back, and we are ready and willing to serve at the very next opportunity that you have. I really appreciate being here in your community. I understand your bidding process, and I respect it, but we'll be back. Our hope, it's really good to hear from MV, our hope is that the new contractor will carry on the great service that I think we've been able to provide, very much evidenced in the customer satisfaction surveys that you've commissioned, where we've consistently ranked very high. And a large part of that success, I think, is very much due to the training, the very specific training that TransDev offers, not just driving and maneuvering skills, but customer service and caregiver skills to make sure that the drivers are well prepared and the employees. And frankly, that couldn't happen without the strong partnership that we have with the Teamsters. We were very careful in our proposal to make sure that we honored and recognized current union work. So again, it's good to hear that MV will honor all of the union positions. You know, there's 753 employees right now on the TransDev payroll, both union and non-union, and those are career jobs for those folks that have good benefits and time off and again, a solid training program. We've had employees that have been working in paratransit for well over 20 years at that location. I know this is a long-winded way of saying thank you, but thank you. Oh, that was long-winded, yes. I value the partnership. Unbelievable team, Tina, MJ, you as the board, thank you so much. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you for your
I'm
comments.
not supposed to say anything, but I'm not going to be here much longer, so I can't. We have very much enjoyed as well our partnership with you. You guys have demonstrated professionalism and commitment to Southern Nevada, and so I think I speak on behalf of our team that we will miss you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Morning, Chair. Good morning, Board. I'm Randy Botzett, Vice President and Business Agent at Teamsters Local 631. I'm just here today to say, through the Board, I appreciate Tom, the CEO of MB, stating the fact he's going to be working with the unions. Did appreciate working with TransDev as well. And Tom, we're going to hold you to your word.
Thank you, Randy. Anyone else wishing to speak? And others can come down. We have 2 microphones. Good morning.
Hi, how you guys doing? My name is Norcina Pierce. I've been in transportation for 20 years. I've been with Paratransit for the last 11 years. First of all, it's an honor to meet you and be in your presence, okay? What I wanted to say was, it's like losing a family, losing you guys. Been working with them. I guess I got a new family coming in. And like Randy said, we thankful that you're gonna honor our contract that we worked the last 6 months on. And it's real hard, you know, just like losing you, you know what I'm saying? It's very hard, but we understand how things go on, you know, and people move on. And I just like to thank you guys, okay?
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, we'll close that portion of public comments from the board.
Which brings us to item, no, we have more?
Oh, could we get a microphone up? I'm sorry, ma'am. We'll bring a mic up to you. Sit down, relax. I have the microphones.
Hello, my name is Joanne Thompson. I've been with Paratransit ever since I came to Vegas 15 years ago. And I went from a driver of 12 years to working in the office. And I just want to say, even though they looked out for the employees, we had benefits, everything was well, but the part-time workers, I went from full-time to part-time, so I'm not considered at all. I don't receive any benefits, nothing. And I just think in the contract, it should have been looked out more for the part-timers who did go part-time and are still with the company, because some of them that have been there 20 years are part-time workers now, but they're not recognized.
Thank you for your comments. From the board, any comments or questions? I would move to follow staff recommendation. Motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Brings us to item number 54, which again will be handled by our Deputy CEO, MJ Maynard.
Let's see if I can get this right this time. A little unnerving meeting today. So commissioners, based on your direction at last month's commission meeting, we'll review the pre-recession paratransit service area as well as the existing paratransit service area, and also look at the transit planning and public involvement that we undertake that we use to expand, retract, or make modifications to our fixed route and or paratransit service. Prior to the recession in 2011, we served over 8,500 active paratransit clients in this geographical area, about 386 square miles. And that primarily extended 1.5 miles outside of the fixed route boundary, totaling 386 square miles. So this service area at the time was beyond the ADA mandated 3/4 mile boundary and cost approximately $29 million annually to service. So making the decision to retract the paratransit service area was not an easy one. At the direction of the board, all 650 paratransit customers that would have been impacted from the retraction received grandfathered status and continued to receive service even though they were technically now living outside the service area. This slide shows the paratransit service area retracted to the 3/4 mile boundary, reduced from 386 square miles to 313 square miles for a difference of 73 square miles. It's important to note that during the recession, and that was over the course of 3 years, we also cut 223,000 fixed route service hours, which further reduced the paratransit service area. Since the recession, we have done a number of things to restore service to our fixed route and paratransit clients. We added back more than 250,000 fixed route service hours. We extended routes, added frequency, and created new routes, which has subsequently led to the expansion of the paratransit service area. As a reminder, this is a map of the service area in June of 2011. The green shaded area represents the paratransit service area expansion. When we expand our fixed route service, as we did after the recession, the paratransit service area automatically expands to a new 3/4 mile boundary around any new fixed route. As the map, and this is from May of 2019, it shows that our paratransit service area today encompasses 339 square miles, or a difference of 47 square miles from pre-recession levels of service. We serve more than 2,000 clients than we did in 2011, with almost 11,000 active clients to date, annually about $47 million to provide that service. We continue to have ongoing conversations with the community about their needs and requests for service. One question that comes up frequently is, do other transit agencies in the US provide service beyond that 3/4 mile boundary? And if so, how do they fund it? Therefore, last year, Dr. Montero, Heather Montero from Hickory Ridge Group, we commissioned her to conduct a peer review to ask other transit agencies that very same question. She presented her findings to this commission in October of 2018. So to recap her study, it delved into general transit funding sources, operating characteristics, and other factors. Some key takeaways from the peer review include 23 of 41, or 56% of respondents do not provide service outside of the 3/4 mile boundary. RTC spends a higher percentage of its transit budget, about 25%, on paratransit service, while the average is 16% of other transit agencies who provide service within the service area. Most agencies use multiple funding sources for operations, and RTC sales tax allocation is below the average sales tax collected that is devoted to overall transit service. Dr. Montero's peer review also highlighted the various funding sources transit agencies use to support their respective transit services. As you can see in the slide, some of the funding sources include federal funds, sales tax, fares, local funds, gas tax, and even a TNC and/or taxi tax, just to name a few. Another question the RTC has been asked is, what is the process in which the service area is altered, expanded, or changed? Our service performance and capacity standards, or specs as we like to call it, identify the specific criteria for choosing fixed route extensions or new routes, retracting or eliminating fixed route service. The specs criteria include analyzing and quantifying, as you see on the screen here, population density, employment density, and route connectivity. In other words, areas of the valley that have dense population to include multifamily dwellings, multiple employment centers, and a minimum half-mile connection to existing transit service would, based on our planning criteria, support new and/or enhanced transit service. We know that there are areas in our valley today that meet the specs criteria, particularly the rapidly growing southwest and northwest areas of the valley. If additional funding were identified, we'd have the opportunity to expand the paratransit service by way of adding new and much-needed fixed route service. And finally, we occasionally get asked the question by our customers, how can we get involved? The RTC has a number of public committees, including the Citizens Advisory Committee, currently known as the Transportation Access Advisory Committee, or TAC. TAC members meet bi-monthly, and meetings include 2 public comment periods pursuant to open meeting law. The TAC members represent the elderly and disabled members of the community and receive input on the community's special transportation needs and services. Pertaining to the changes that occurred in 2011 during the recession, TAC members reviewed and weighed in on the suggestions, ultimately recommending that we move forward and seek board approval. We would be more than happy to share the TAC calendar in the event anyone would like to attend the next meeting, which happens to be actually this month on September 25th. And that concludes my presentation. Be more than happy to answer questions you might have.
Okay. Before we have comments from the board, those in the audience that would like to speak on this item?
Could you do a presentation predicting the future if rideshare is going to explode, and considering the costs are projected to fall and the advent of automated self-driving cars? Because I think we should definitely do something about that.
Your name for the record?
Cyrus Hojati.
Thank you, Cyrus. Others wishing to speak? Okay, comments from the board? All right. Councilman?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Again, as being someone who actually works in the community, when you're a teacher, you're a public servant. This year, I swear I have more homeless kids at Rancho High School than ever had before. That being said, you know, supposedly the homeless population is going down, but I know I don't see it. That being said, also, because of my background and what I teach, I wind up having many students, of course, who are ADA. And of course, I know we have lots of people. I regret very much that services have had to come back, have had to cut back. As one of our residents did point out, we're facing challenges for the future with different modes of transportation that are cutting into the standard ways in which we do business, of course. We've had to be very, very judicious and extremely, extremely good caretakers of how we spend the money in the future. I have a feeling that perhaps working with our new paratransit system, with new technologies coming up, It may not be today, it may not be in the next week or so, but I think relief systems are coming, and that'll be balanced out. That we'll be able to work with, I think, with our Teamsters, and coming up with equitable solutions with our contractors to provide services for people who are right now cut out. And I have a feeling that technology will be able to provide some new avenues for expansion. And so I look very much forward for plans to bring back these transportation services in these corridors. They're minor, but when you have someone who needs these services, for them it's a major thing. You know, just being able to get those who are unfortunately not as mobile and not as fortunate as the rest of us, including them into the cage and making sure that they're productive citizens. Any plans that we can do to bring back a route and, of course, expand, I'll be extremely interested in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No one wishing to speak? I'm not sure if I'll regret this, but we put this item on, so it's a discussion item. So normally when you speak at the end of the meeting and ask questions, we can't deal it at that time. So if you'd like to question the report or ask specifics, now is the opportunity as a discussion item. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Robin Kincaid, and this is the 14th time that I've come before the Commission regarding paratransit services that are not meeting the needs of persons with disabilities. I appreciate the fact that this is on the agenda and that there is another look at the situation, and I want to thank you for the report that you have prepared. We still feel like that the conversations has got to continue. You know, unfortunately, adults with disabilities are twice as likely without disabilities to have inadequate transportation. The ratio is like 31% versus 13%. Across the country, nearly 2 million people with disabilities who never leave their homes. 560,000 do not leave because of transportation difficulties. This is playing out in our state, in our city, in our county. Leaving people out has real cost to the nation. It actually has a real financial impact. It keeps them away from shopping, it keeps them out of jobs, out of community life, and it prevents them from making valuable contributions to our society as individuals, workers, as consumers, and taxpayers. So I'm a parent of a young adult that has disabilities. My daughter, Kayla, I've talked about her before. Some of you have been here. We live in the service area, and we use paratransit services probably 5 days a week. Okay, she can attend services again at the church on Sunday using paratransit services because it's still not in the service area. A church that we've been a part of for over 22 years. So I think the concern is that we're still not, you know, helping young adults with disabilities or individuals with disabilities in general be able to access essential services. So what's really missing out of this is the fact that we are forgetting that the access to essential services needs to be part of this equation up there. It needs to be that we look at that. We look at growth as well, but you have to be able to get to things that people use on a regular basis, like all of you do, people without disabilities use. I also want to just a couple other notes, and then I would like to put in maybe some requests. So in the past 10 days, she's already had 2 letters from Paratransit of excessive trip lengths. So, for example, one evening, she was on the bus for over 3 hours. I mean, this is outrageous. And I appreciate the fact that I get the letter, that you give me the little card. You know, I mean, I appreciate the fact that you acknowledge that, but that still isn't solving the problem. And that is, I've been talking for, 18 months here, and that is unusual. So I just want to point out that we are still experiencing some excessive trip lengths. Oh, I'm out of time again.
Go ahead.
Let me go back to the requesting. So I would still want to clearly define the process in which fixed service area is altered, expanded, or changed. And how do the access to essential services, and we can come up with a list of what essential services are. I mean, I'm fine with that. And how is that part of the consideration? And then I'm back to the point that RTC administrators and staff have to recognize that RTC is not a profit-making business. It is a service. Public services can't be run like businesses. And of course, the primary aim of the public service is to provide a service. I still would like to see an exclusive task force that really addresses the need and the ability for individuals to access essential services and to be able to work in the community. And then I'd appreciate if you would put it back on the agenda for October. I'm requesting that as well. And one last note, I understand that we make changes in vendors. I still have concerns. One of the things that my daughter does in her daily commute is access bus stops at the UNLV campus. She goes to college 5 days a week, which is a wonderful thing for an individual with an intellectual disability. We're very thrilled that she has this opportunity, but the training for drivers in locating those 11 bus stops on that campus is significant. And so I'm concerned as we make this change, and again, not privy to all of the details of how those change and if it's going to be the same drivers or there's more training or whatever, but I still wanted to express that concern. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, there's no action on this.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Amir.
Could I ask you, and thank you for that, and the sensitivity of this commission always, we hear you, as you know, so much is funding, but in particular, you're mentioning of being able to attend religious services. I would like to ask the members of your religious group, is there a kindness until there's an ability of us to be able to service you in particular? Isn't there anybody from your church, your leadership in the church? I know that in my religious group, when there's a sensitive issue, and certainly your daughter should be able to attend services on a regular basis, to go back to the body and say, you know, we're outside the service area. Isn't there a member of the congregation that can, until this can be solved, if possible? And so I would just ask, I would be happy to, if I'm allowed, and I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if that is not part of protocol here, don't want to get beyond my skis.
We're discussing, that's why it's an item.
To ask your leader of your religious to talk to the congregation and see maybe on a rotating basis they can come and pick her up.
And I appreciate that, Mayor Goodman, I really do. I just will share too. I just had another birthday, so you know, just like
welcome to the crowd.
Yeah, right. We're getting older, and I guess the goal as parents of children with young adults is that we are trying to promote independence. That we don't want to be in a situation where she has to try to locate someone to do that. So the goal, and we feel that paratransit is the key to her being a young adult with independent. But you're right, on an interim basis, it is possible.
And if I might, Mr. Chairman, please, I mean, I'm so thrilled this is on the agenda. I've been sitting here these years just wanting to respond and knowing we're not allowed. But sadly, for those of us who look to the future, that fewer and fewer years are ahead rather than longer time. Your responsibility and this is personal, I feel our responsibility as parents is to help prepare our children to set them free and to take care of themselves. So any way that you, and I know you do this because I know who you are, that you are helping to prepare for the day you're not here.
That's
and we don't know where paratransit's going to be. We have no idea. It's always, we have so many people in our community that are so smart, so able, so involved and having great ideas. But when you come down to the bottom line, and I'm thinking tonight's a debate, and we're hearing all these wonderful ideas of what's going to happen. My first question as I talk stupidly to the candidates from my living room with my husband, who's sick of hearing me, how are you going to fund it? How are you going to fund it? So I personally believe exactly what you're doing, but we don't know where any type of public transportation is going to go as innovation continues to change the world for us. And so it's getting her to move outside the box and always ask. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. So to me, the fact that she would learn how to process and find this transportation, and to me, nothing better than a religious body of support, because there may be other candidates and students in your church that go to UNLV and
Well, it's a
could
great
pick her up.
suggestion, and I appreciate it. I think it doesn't solve the problem, like, for example, I think I've mentioned before that she can't get access to the post office.
Right.
I really doubt that there's anybody at the post office that's going to help us out in that situation. But it could be another friend or family member. I understand that. But again, the goal is to achieve a level of independence we want for all of our adult children. Is that not the case?
Well, and a happy birthday to you.
Oh,
Keep
thank you.
loving her and get her independent as much as possible.
All right,
Congratulations for what you've been doing.
Good morning. Before I start my testimony, I do want to make a comment on this. It's a little difficult to get up here and talk about this when I just looked at it, so I don't have that much time to ask questions that I probably would want to ask if I had more time. But one of the questions I have is prior to the recession, when we were doing 386 miles, and now we're doing 339 miles, I just wanted to know what would be the cost to increase it back to the prior recession. I just want to know how much money are we talking about here. And
Stephanie,
as far as the...
Could you put your name on the record?
I'm sorry, it's Stephanie Versnick.
Thank you.
And as far as the participation, are you guys sending out surveys? Because I never get surveys. So what kind of surveys are you sending out?
So we do, we have a company that does surveys, customer satisfaction surveys twice a year. And it's out of 11,000 active clients. It's done a sample size, but I'll make sure that somebody gets your.
Yeah, because how did those 11,000 get picked? So,
and I'll get that. Yeah, we'll make sure, Ms. Verzick, that you are included.
Okay, I've never gotten any surveys. So those are the two questions that come to my mind immediately after looking at this. I might have additional questions to add to my testimony next month, but I'll begin my testimony. And I'm speaking before you for the 19th time. I'm going to start my 19th testimony before this group with a fact about our nation's history. In light of recent events, it's been 18 years since the tragedies that occurred on September 11, 2001. Did you know that many of those brave first responders now have disabilities caused by their acts of heroism? That they may need help with transportation. I'm sure that right here in Las Vegas, we have some first responders who are not receiving transportation because they live outside the service area. My husband proudly served in the Air Force for 25 years. In fact, on 9/11, he was in Saudi serving our country. It was a very scary time for our family and for our country. Near the anniversary of so many lives lost, it's hard to believe that we are still fighting for basic rights, for those who keep our military bases running so that our nation's heroes can serve our country. As I previously stated in my previous testimonies, my son, Christian, is a federal employee and has been for 16 years working at Nellis Air Force Base Commissary. He loves his job and he is proudly serving our military families. This is a young man who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 15 months, and I was told to put him in an institution and to get on with my life because he would never be able to do anything on his own. Look how far he has come. He is completely independent except for his transportation. Let me just remind you, disabilities are not just limited to children and young adults. It can happen to anyone at any time. Any one of us could experience a disability and no longer be able to drive ourselves where we need to go. What would you do if that happened to you? What would you do if you lived outside the service area and had no transportation? What would you do if you lost your job because you had no access to transportation? That's the situation my son is in. I can't begin to tell you how frustrating it is to speak before you each month. I am only asking for basic rights, access to transportation for people with disabilities, so they can be independent members in our community. Let me just remind you again, Paratransit is supposed to provide transportation to the most vulnerable members in our community. It's not intended to be a for-profit entity. Paratransit service is an unfunded mandate. This commission needs to shift their focus back on the members of our community. People with disabilities still need transportation in this community. I am just a mom speaking on behalf of my son, and I will continue to testify with the hope that someday my testimony will not only help my son, but make a difference for everyone who can't access basic needs because of not having access to transportation. In closing, I would just like to say, participating in public comment for the 19th time, maybe this will be the time that this commission will take into consideration all my testimonies and hear my message. Do the right thing, commissioners. Expand the service area to the way it was in 2011.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, board. Thank you so much for hearing me. Thank you so much for hearing my close dear friends. My name is Kenneth Teacher, for the record. I have some sad news because my friends can't get to the places they need to be productive. They need to strive. They need to go to the grocery store. They need basic, what we do basic in a basic day that other people take for granted is transportation. The service area is restricted. These people can't get to the doctor's appointment or places that they need to help support their growing family, the growing populations. Disability is a natural form of life. We're denying them the right to good, effective transportation, and with that goes past opportunities missed, go past they can't take care of their friends and families. They can't get to social events by themselves. We, as going to 2020, we need to strive for excellence. We need to promote everybody with disabilities should be independent as they could. We need to increase the service area to that where it was in 2011 because it's just the right thing to do. We are not asking for a lot. We are just asking for equal opportunities for everybody and growing population. And yeah, I would like to end by saying that thank you for the time to hear my testimony. It's a very important testimony. You will find if you increase the service area to that where it was in 2011, you will give these proud people with disabilities the hope and the fuel for the future. And thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Chairman?
Mayor?
Thank you. You have been down here often, and we certainly are appreciative of the passion as you speak, and all those who continue to address us. It goes back to pretty much a repeating understanding of how do we fund. Certainly we know all people are equal. I don't care that anybody should think there's a difference. People are equal and have the opportunity and should have the opportunity for everything to be equitable in education and service, regardless of physical, emotional, mental ability, religion, race, everything. And so given that, what you said triggered something new in my mind. I had mentioned 2 speakers ago about just an idea with the church, but I look at our responsibility to find ways to fund and service as many people as we can, and it always comes down to the dollar. We can't look into the future of what technology is going to be doing or where the routes are going to go and what's going to happen with all the alternative offers of transportation, all of which goes to the fact that we sitting here today can't possibly tell you where public transportation is going to be in 5-10 years. I mean, we'd like to know, is the federal government going to come in behind and do more and fund us better? Is Nevada going to go ahead and have a lottery and take that money and give it to the RTC, which we would love, with no pain? I worry about the growth in population because we know the greatness of Major League Sports to our community is limitless. It means tons, hundreds, probably thousands, if not a million, new people moving here. And your comments triggered off in my mind that we need on our technology to be letting people know as they come in and decide where to live, where to buy, where to rent and get a feel. Understand what our routes are currently, maybe what they had been, and when they make, because I always hear people doing this, and I have 4 children that are 38 months apart, and I can assure you, each one of them always pointed to the other one. It was his fault or her fault and everything. The reality is reality, and what are the facts and what are the encumbrances keeping us from handling everything for everybody. So with all of these new people coming in and looking to either buy or rent, let's look to them, but do it in a manner that they understand everything continues to change and evolve. And life is choices. And so what each of us do daily in our lives, not only it's my doing for my family if they're minors to make the choices for them. It's not somebody else's problem. It's my problem to take care of my family to the best that I can. And I'm not shy and I will ask for help. But the reality is what is available and what does it look like that's going to be available? So these new people coming in, at least we can be helping them understand that if you need today's current, based on the budgetary needs of servicing as many people and as many different needs that need to be filled, that people now coming in can look to make their choice to buy within a service area and what are other options. And I think it is a demand on this particular RTC to share that information. And this is going to change as we get new service coming in, different types of service. We can see right now the top 2 leaders in the private area, the Uber and Lyft. Is that going to expand? Is there going to be an obligation somehow through the government to obligate Uber and Lyft to pick up paratransit, pick up different communities and do service. So we can deal with today and sharing information so when people decide again to rent and buy, that they do it within an area, not pick a place that has no service and it doesn't look like it's going to be. I think your points are absolutely spot on. We would love to have the money to service everybody, and maybe that will happen. Maybe we will be in a position. Our sensitivities and our belief and love for this community and this entire state, Ms. Swallow, because I keep hearing the chairman talk about what we're doing down here in the South. The reality is we are one people, and everybody counts. But we also, as individuals, have a responsibility to do the best ourselves and not expect others to make us more informed or anything. We need to inform, we need to teach children how to do the best and be as independent as they can and where they need help to get it. So I appreciate that you've been coming down here as many times, 19, we're at 19, that sharing this with us, we have been unable to respond. But I can't tell you, our hearts, and were we a treasury that could print money to make that happen, we would have done it 19 times ago. And so we're with you, we understand it, and what can we do now, right now, today? And it just keeps coming back to us. What resource do I have? And right now, we can be doing something here to let newcomers come in and know, here's where we're servicing, and there's no guarantee it's going to even be that big tomorrow. Hopefully it'll be bigger. So thank you, and I'm sorry I'm so lengthy, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor, and appropriate. I'll add a couple of thoughts. First off, for the new board members, I had the good fortune of meeting Robin's daughter, Kayla, when she came to our Little League practices and watched her big brother play baseball. And Robin, to hear that she's going to UNLV 5 days a week, that's, from my heart to yours, that's a testimony to you and the family and Kayla herself. It's great. And as the mayor said, we welcome Stephanie, Kenneth, Robin, continue to come back. You have to understand that we cannot be all things to all people. And I will stand here, and for every meeting you show up, that MJ and her team that deal with ADA have big hearts. They don't want to be an obstacle. They want to serve. That's what we do here. We're not a for-profit. We're a public service agency. But a reality has to be accepted that we can't be all things to all people. There are certain fixed route riders that would love to go to a place, a church, a post office, but we don't serve them. It's not that we're discriminating, but again, we just can't be everywhere to all people, and that's important. I think one of the numbers that she showed earlier, 25% of our budget goes to transit, and that's far above the average. And well, why don't we do 35%? We can't, because ADA is just one of the things we do as a public agency. What I would encourage you to do is continue to come down. If we can, take advantage of the TAC. I don't know if they've ever been approached as far as either attending the TAC meeting. Try to get some of these initiatives up through our protocols, our processes. Even if we do some of the things that you're asking, we're still not going to hit everyone. We try to help those that do come down as best we can without being biased towards the others. So we'll continue to work on this. As the mayor said, we'll continue to try to do the best we can to serve these people because they deserve it. They're like everyone else. They're part of our community. So I would, again, on behalf of the board, keep coming down. Let us continue to hear your concerns, and we will continue to do the best we can to address them. So with that, I think we'll close this item and move on.
Very good. Item number 55, we can skip. We do not have need to meet with legal counsel, which brings us to our final item, which is item 56, your final citizens participation period.
Second time set aside for public comment. Those wishing to speak to the board, now is your opportunity. Please state your name for the record.
This is just public comment in general, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Cyrus Hojadi. I'd first of all like to point out I'm happy about the Star Interchange just a few days before my birthday, so it'll be a nice gift. And another thing I want to talk about is about these scooters that I've seen pop out in a lot of major cities, Atlanta, San Diego, Nashville. We need to start talking about this. I think this is a really exciting tool. It's exciting to run. It's a good alternative to using a car. Somebody can get on the scooter a few blocks away, just use it, just pay like $1.25. And certainly I think it will incite more people to live in the inner areas. Another comment I want to make is I believe that the state just passed law to track mileage. And I believe this is going to be the replacement for the gas tax. I certainly think the county should do that because I think that right now, for some reason, we're paying 25 cents more for gasoline than per rump. Why is that? So I think we have to find better ways of earning revenue. And another thing I also wanted to point out is we still have a lot of intersections that need traffic lights. So when I go on Fort Apache and I believe Hacienda, that intersection needs a traffic light. And I think this is probably why car accidents and pedestrian deaths are much higher. And by the way, speaking of pedestrian deaths, I think what we should start doing is start paving the crosswalks, probably in that color stone over there, rather than just painting it white because the heat like absorbs it. And so, you know, the crosswalk, it's painted, it's just gone, and then people just cross whatever they want, and then they dress up in black, and it's usually at night, and then they get hit. And so this is probably the reason why. And I know it's not cheap, but it certainly can save a lot of lives. So, and then going back to the whole scooter thing, I think it would be a wonderful opportunity, and not just in downtown Maryland Parkway. I'm talking about all over the valley. We have to encourage. Well, I'd like to get your response about that, please, because certainly it will save a lot of money. It will obviously reduce the need of having a car, and certainly parking in cars not only have a lot of cost, but require a lot of space too. I just came here. I had to like literally park my car several thousand feet away because all these parking lots were full. So let's have a discussion about this. Now, if there may be some disagreement, I do respect that, but maybe we can have zones where we can find places to park them. And maybe we can use bike path or something like that. By the way, how is this going to be used in the Strip too? Because how are people going to get from one hotel to another? So let's talk about that. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I didn't get time to put a slip in this morning, Patricia Anderson. We have a lot of things that are going on that I just observe. I don't cause any trouble on the bus. One thing we need is these open cups. These people come on the open cups and with the lids on it, and they disrespect the bus drivers. And like you say again, it's supposed to be a lid. It's supposed to be a sealed lid. So quite naturally, they just walk on. They come on with they don't show their reduced card. They don't swipe their card. They don't do any of these things that they're supposed to do. They come in, they say, oh, I don't have the money. They walk with the fare. Their cell phones and their music. This is my phone. I bought my phone. And that's not fair to these drivers because these drivers are really doing a fantastic job. Northtown is, I've been over there a couple of times. The bus stops are pretty bad. And the bus stops, we need to take care of the bus stops, so forth and so on. Dirt and everything. Decatur, I was wondering if I called a couple of times. We need the white lines across. I know I'm near on Decatur and Penwood, but the bus stops are kind of catty corner. So we need to have lines where people can, I know they're not gonna still grade walk, but at least we can try to get across, because when a bus is coming south, they see a bus and they run across, and we have had a couple people get hurt and one person lost their life. We need, like I said, what they need to do is pay their fare. If they don't pay their fare, what is it gonna be? People that pay their fare, I pay my fare. I mean, not disrespectful to the bus driver. But these other people, it's so much going on, and I think anybody that can, one of you can, I know you're busy, whatever, can just ride these buses and see what's going on. Craig and Martin Luther King, and what have you is concerned, and we definitely need situation, And like you say, what we need to do on the speaker, for them to show their ID. I mean, this is not these are not free buses. I mean, I look around, this is not a free thing. And like I said, I just observe what have you. But it's a lot of disrespectful to these drivers. And they bring a cup of ice, and when they're last, and they just throw it on the floor, on the ground. So it's not right. Thank you so very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
My name is Herman Ross, and I'm with National Insurance Consultants, 2300 West Sahara. First, I want to thank you for your service, for recognizing us as long as you have. I want to thank you for your recommendation. I concur and agree with that. You guys know I've been the broker for Paratransit since it started, the insurance broker since 1994. We've come a long way, and we got a long ways to go. One thing I want to say about this particular council is some of the things that the mayor has said. We need to participate. People need to get involved from the public side. If we don't participate, then how can we even come to these council meetings to say anything relative to what's going on in paratransit? Having cutbacks is not just here. I insure 18 major transit systems around the country. This is national. So those people that make those ideas and come up with concrete solutions are the ones that participate. I want to congratulate TransDev on the years that they did and have been here. I want to congratulate Keolis, also MV, for being successful. I participate with them around the country. I'm a vendor for them around the country, and they participate and do what they're supposed to do in the communities. Someone said this is a not-profit. Well, they're companies. For them, they bid, they try to make a profit. Here in our community, I've been here 40 years. Mr. Brown, I've been involved with him for many, many years, known the mayor for many years. We do the right thing. So for anyone to say that we don't, they're wrong. And being involved in this community is something you need to make sure you do on a daily basis, or don't come up here and talk. So I want to thank you all, and again, good luck, okay? And I'll be in touch. All right, take care. You too. All right.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board? Seeing and hearing no one, we'll close this portion of public comment. Thank you all. This meeting is adjourned.